The base is dropped on a beautiful morning in Vancouver, British Columbia. Soccer Down here is live from both coasts. Jason's in Vancouver. John is back in Metro Atlanta.
You just went third person.
Yeah, totally. It happens occasionally. I mean, might as well. When you get a chance, you might as well do it, right?
Wow. Third person references. See what happens when you're impacted by Pacific time and the beautiful mountain ranges of Vancouver and the water?
No, see what happens when you're impacted by like every bit of cold medicine or sinus medicine
Yes.
you can possibly stuff in a bag. That's me at this point. So we will see how it goes. But we have Doug Robertson joining us from Vancouver later in the show as well. And we'll give you our predictions as we always do at the end of the show. You can go ahead and check out the Bailey Daily poll over at jbailey86 on Twitter and make your predictions about tonight's match. Atlanta, Vancouver, 9:30 airtime, both TV and radio. Kickoff just after 10 o'clock tonight. It's Fox Sports Southeast, I believe, tonight for TV, if I am remembering my South and Southeast delineation correctly.
Okay. Efforting.
Southeast is almost always the right one, and every time I think it's the other one, I'm usually wrong. So I believe it is Fox Sports
so
Southeast.
We go with Southeast as the default.
Yes. No.
It's on
it is
South.
Fox Sports South. See? That's what happens. You guess and you're wrong. I'm not buying a lottery ticket today. So Fox Sports South, 9:30 pregame, 92.9 The Game, 9:30 pregame. Kickoff will be just after 10. You can also listen on the radio.com and Atlanta United apps as well. We'll get you ready for that one, but we've got a couple questions because it is a while past Wednesday, and these things do come up from time to time. Let's start with Chivas because it was kind of a philosophical question, and I'd missed Caleb Porter's comments from over the weekend. So LAFC went into Columbus, won 3-0, and Caleb Porter said this afterwards. In my opinion, in watching all the games and all the teams, they're the Manchester City of MLS. The budget, the talent, the way they play, that's the best team in the league. And as I'm standing there at 1-0, I'm looking at my team, and my feeling was that I was proud of them for how they played everything they gave. And he went on, and he said just a little bit more about how he was actually happy with his team's performance. If they'd gotten a goal early in the second half, it's a completely different game, but he was proud of his group. So Shiva asked if Caleb Porter thinks that LAFC is the Manchester City of Major League Soccer, then what is Atlanta United?
I would have thought that Atlanta United was Manchester City.
Why would you say that?
Just because A, they're the defending champ, and until you're knocked off, you're still number one, at least in my book. And but LAFC to me, if you're comparing it in the sense of pocketbook and all of those things, Atlanta United isn't just spending, 10 to the left of the decimal place to bring in people because you physically can't. So, I mean, if you're taking pursuit and the pocketbook out of it, Atlanta United might be Liverpool. This one to me, I'm trying to figure out what his Jimmy the Greek 5 categories were: offense, defense, special team, intangibles, and what.
Well, what he said specifically was the budget, the talent, the way they play, that's the best team in the league.
Okay, so budget, I think, doesn't that kind of
the way they play.
Okay, so all right, so budget for me, that's kind of because MLS has a universality to it. I mean, everybody's kind of the same, even though you pay your DPs whatever you pay your DPs.
That makes it different, but I think budget-wise, you're talking LAFC, Atlanta, Toronto, NYC, Seattle, are all Galaxy, are all around the same. Which, I mean, let's be honest about the Premier League too. It's not like Liverpool is poor little Liverpool who's not spending any money.
No.
Manchester United, yes, they're spending some money. Chelsea spending some money. Arsenal spending some money. Tottenham is the one that actually sits out on an island a little bit with what they've done lately, and they're very different. So, yeah, Manchester City spent a lot of money. But, okay, so budget, if you're comparing it to MLS, you've got a number of clubs who are kind of in that same category. I don't think LAFC is blowing anybody out of the water. It's all about the same. That's fine. Talent. Does Manchester City have a giant talent gulf around the rest of the Premier League, in your opinion?
Possibly from a depth perspective, but because of what Liverpool is doing with the younger guys, it kind of closes the gap. But from an experience factor, I would say yes.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I think the depth, and that was very intentional. They wanted the depth. And honestly, if you're looking at LAFC, that's where I would disagree. I don't think LAFC has the depth that Atlanta has. I don't think they have the depth that possibly Toronto has, although there's some untested depth there. I don't think LAFC is all that deep, to be honest.
No, I don't.
But top-level talent,
yeah,
they have it. Is it far ahead of everybody else in the league? I'm not so sure of that.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Now, the way they play, and this is where it's a very esoteric kind of description of it, they don't play the same way. Bob Bradley's LAFC doesn't play the same way as Pep Guardiola's Manchester City because, honestly, I don't think anybody plays the same way as Manchester City. I think there's elements you take of it, but nobody plays that way. So in terms of them playing a way that is maybe superior to the rest of the league, would LAFC be that? And who else would be in that conversation?
Superior? I mean,
out of what they've done the last 2 years, I think for Manchester City, yes. I think what they've shown over these past 2 years is the way that they play is superior to the rest of the league.
Correct.
I don't know. LAFC to me is not that because they haven't. They're 2 years old, not even 2 years old, and they didn't do anything last year in big games. Now they're showing up in big games this year, and they're off to an amazing start. But are they the Manchester City of the league? And back to Shiva's question, if we're going to take Caleb Porter's analogy at face value and say that right now, today on May 15th, we're talking about LAFC as the Manchester City of MLS, then what would that make Atlanta United? That was Shiva's original question.
By default, is it Liverpool?
Yeah, in some ways. I mean, stylistically very different in the way they play, but, right there with them.
Yeah.
They're close. I think Atlanta's unique this year, and I don't know if we're really going to be able to answer this question for another couple of months because, I mean, who would be the comparison even in recent years in England to what Atlanta United's gone through? So top team, and we can stretch it to say even if they didn't win the championship, but top team that had a manager leave, bring a new manager in. There are some tweaks to the system. And, oh, by the way, a top player leaves and you have another talisman come in who's a different type of player. No, not really, because, I mean, you'd have to go back to when Pochettino came in.
And that's what I'm doing.
To have that change, and it was more of a long-term change than a short-term. Because, I mean, this is not expected to be a, wow, this is really difficult for a few years and then hit the ground running. It's, okay, get it together quickly and then go. And that's
is it
what
Wolves,
we're starting
then?
to see. No. It's at the top. I mean, it's got to be
so it's
a
Big
team
Six
at the top who was near a championship or won a championship and went through those types of changes the next year. there's not an easy comparison because
No.
it's not an easy thing to do.
No, I mean, Arsenal and Manchester United, you pull out of the system. You pull out of that comparison because of the long term of Arsene Wenger.
I mean,
And
Manchester United, if when you look back at Ferguson leaves
yeah,
off of a championship,
Moyes.
David Moyes comes in and doesn't ever make the team his own. And that was far more complicated because you're talking about how many years of Alex Ferguson at that stage?
It's 2
25,
decades.
26.
Yeah.
I mean, that's different than 2 years of Tata Martino. So that's a much harder road for David Moyes to deal with, and he couldn't ultimately. Frank de Boer is much further along than that, and there's no worry about that at this stage. So I don't know, and that's what, kind of coming back to it when I saw this question pop up from Shiva. First, it's a great question because there's really not an answer to it, but it makes you think. And in my mind, as I've kind of mulled it over, it makes you appreciate, I think, how quickly Atlanta United has found its footing in doing something that just is very difficult to do.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe what did Manchester City do the year before Pep came in?
Wasn't that was Pellegrini?
I mean, they were a top team.
Yeah, I mean, it was 4 titles in 6 years.
Yeah. That's probably your closest comparison, to be perfectly honest, because, yes, you had some stylistic changes, obviously, because Pep is his own man in the way he runs a team. You were a top team, but you were trying to find another level and get to another lofty, spot that is very hard to get to. So the ambition part is similar. The fact that there are some stylistic changes to try to get there is similar. And the fact that, for Pep and the way the Premier League is structured, he finished third in his first year. And people were like, wow, that's a failure.
Such a failure.
He can't win. And then he's had almost 200 points in the last 2 years.
Yeah, that is unheard of.
So that, I think if you are looking for something that is something to keep an eye on, keep that in mind as to how difficult this can be and how the pressure can be a challenge. But if you stick to the course and if the things work out the way that everyone is expecting, you can really be paid off. And I think in MLS, with it being a playoff structure, it's a different type of flow to a season, and you can find that success. And I really like where Atlanta United's headed so far. I really feel like they got through the worst part of it early on, and they are becoming themselves. It's kind of where I'm at with it right now. And it's really a lot of fun to see, all of these different layers to the team kind of emerge.
Yeah, I mean, if you just take the big 6 by comparison, it can't be an Arsenal, it can't be a Manchester United.
Mm-mm.
Chelsea has had too much upheaval and is still trying to figure out who they are with their 38th coach in 3 years. Spurs, you'd have to go back to a Pochettino change and bail out and Kane in, but that was so far back that Pochettino has been able to establish his own personality.
Yeah, that was a longer term thing. So,
I mean, for me, I think that it is the Manchester City transition from Pellegrini to Pep Guardiola. That'd be the best thing. So, yeah, while LAFC is the Manchester City of MLS, I would say that Atlanta United is the Manchester City of MLS from a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, that's the type of. I mean, that's what Atlanta United is trying to do here, and that speaks to the ambition, I think, because it's very easy when you're good to say, "Hey, we're good. Things are fine. We're going to keep rolling along this path, and we'll be just fine. We don't have to change anything." Now, you had to change some things because Tata Martino took a job with Mexico that he's finding is a little more difficult than maybe he thought right now, with players deciding not to come to the Gold Cup, and that's got to be frustrating for Tata. But at his stage in his career, it all makes sense. So he goes, Almiron goes, because that deal made sense. And, you're also trying to be even better than you were last year. That's something we don't normally see. And not a lot of clubs really, I think, try to do that. So that's really the only comparison that I have.
Yeah, I mean, I think Liverpool is the one that I left out. Sorry, Doug, in the initial comparisons. But it's Fenway Sports Group is spending money. You've seen a transition.
No, actually, that's a good one because Brendan Rodgers took them to, within a step of the title. And they decided that, we're close, but we're not there. And they go bring in Klopp to get to an even higher level. That's the type of ambition you're talking about here. And look, this is different because this is not that they, moved on from Tata Martino willingly. It's a little different because of the situation. But that's really your only comparison.
Yeah.
Is that you've put together something special and you realize, you know what? We can go even further than this, and we're not going to be satisfied with where we are. We're going to continue to reach higher. And that is a pretty fun thing to watch play out because you don't often see it. You normally see teams kind of get to a level and plateau and try to stay there as opposed to say, you know what, we can go even further.
Yeah, so I think that you're looking at the transition from into Guardiola and what you're seeing right now with Liverpool. So those are the two that I can think of when it comes to it. But when the question is being asked and we're hashing out the discussion, and really the only two solutions that are to it are the top two teams in the league who've been the top two teams, then what's the phrase? You're in real high cotton here in the South when you mention that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's an old school phrase that I've heard, but one I can never say that I've used. I've never said I was in high cotton.
Yes. So it's safe to say that Atlanta United is in high cotton right now, I think.
ATL UTD fan number one has a good point to close this out. I do completely agree. To me, and this is to Joe, Caleb Porter's comments were more aimed at Columbus spending more money for designated players, and he has hinted at that before. I also believe his comments directly led to Jossie Zardes being paid as a designated player this week. I honestly don't think he believes LAFC is anything close to Manchester City. No, I don't think he was saying that. I think he was saying they're the Manchester City of this league. And I think he was also trying to deflect a little bit at a 3-0 loss that his team suffered at home. And yeah, I mean, there's gamesmanship and all of that, sure. But it does lead to that discussion of, okay, obviously you have clubs with ambition and you have clubs that maybe are lacking ambition. Caleb Porter's at a really interesting club in Columbus, a club that has not had ambition, a club that has achieved, though, under Greg Berhalter. I mean, they were at an MLS Cup final in 2015. They were a very good team under Berhalter, but they didn't really have that ambition because their owner didn't want to be there. Well, now they have new ownership with ambition, and I think it's taken a little bit of time for that ambition to get jump-started. So I will be curious to see what Columbus turns into. And for Caleb Porter to make these kind of comments, I do think that there are angles to what he's saying. I agree with ATL UTD fan number one on that. But I don't know what Columbus ends up being. I don't think they end up being that type of club, although, I mean, the ownership has the money to do it if they want to spend it. And I don't think he thinks that LAFC is anything close to Manchester City. I think he's saying at this stage of the MLS season, they are dominant like we've seen Manchester City lately. I would agree with that. Can they sustain it is the question. And that's what you kind of wait to see over time. And that was my question last year when you looked at LAFC, because they put up good numbers. They just really struggled to beat anybody. And they ultimately didn't. Now they're doing that so far this year. But they've had some hiccups along the way. We'll see if Carlos Vela can maintain the level he's at, because it's insane. And we'll see if they can stay healthy, because I do worry about their depth. But it's going to be a fun season. And we're only a little over 2 months into it. Long, long way to go. More Wall Pass Wednesday questions coming. We've got Austin and our buddy Riley from Roots Up in the queue, and we'll get to those on the other side of the break, along with the fantasy update for Week 11.
Have my team ready.
Our commish, Jason Wright, and John will give you his team, and I might have questions about his team. We'll get into that on the other side of the break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here from Vancouver, British Columbia, and Metro Atlanta, all at the same time. Yeah, craziness. Technology's weird like that. Daniel Price had a question, and it's very funny that Daniel Price asked this. Said, you tried poutine yet? Well, I had poutine last night, Daniel. It was pretty good. It was not Poutineville quality from Montreal. Do they have a jingle? Like, if Poutineville has a jingle and we can have breaks with Poutineville and Pollolandia from Costa Rica, we will be so set on commercials, like, forever. Need to try to find a Poutineville commercial. It was good poutine at a local pub. Not enough cheese on it, though. I wanted more cheese.
I was trying to think of if Poutineville had an ad. To me, it would be like the Justin Timberlake sketch on Saturday Night Live, where he's the walking, singing, insert large, supersized boombox or rabbit or whatever he is, and he's making a song.
No, I know the sketch you're talking about, and I can't remember what Timberlake was doing in that one. But yeah, no, I think Barbershop Quartet for Poutineville if they're doing commercials, something along those lines.
Here's poutine, try it now. And it's just, so now I just have the Barbershop Quartet playing pickup basketball in my head.
Yeah, there you go. Don't think there's a Poutineville in Vancouver. Also had some dim sum yesterday, and I ordered soup. It was a corn and chicken soup. And as I've been very clear about, my allergies are trying to kill me at the moment. So I was like, soup, that'd be great to have right now. And it was really good. The only thing was, like, the bowl was the size of a punch bowl. And
saw that.
It probably could have served 8. So I couldn't get anywhere near even half of that thing, like, finishing it.
Did you take it home?
Well, no, I mean, there's no microwave. So, if I'd been at home and ordered that and could take it home, I would have eaten it for a week.
No microwave in your hotel room?
No. No microwave.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, it happens. It's all good. But no, it was very good. The dim sum was very good. The pot stickers were awesome. Pot stickers were amazing. So
steamed or fried?
They were pan fried because that's when they're their best.
Usually I go steamed.
Pan fried's the best. All right, so Austin has a bit of a follow-up from where we were before, and I completely agree with Austin. He says, I believe that 2019 Atlanta United has a higher ceiling than the 2018 squad. I agree. I 100% agree with that, and I think that was by design. I think that was the idea, was that you wanted to be at a point where you don't have to dramatically change your style of play or get overly defensive in the postseason to win. You want to be a team that dominates the play and controls the play, and I think that's where they're headed towards. So I dig it. I'm with Austin. I think the ceiling is higher for 2019. I do.
Well, and then you think about how many years this group could be together and what can be accomplished because we all know what the goals are in the front office. And I think that they can put together a serious Open Cup run with the depth that they have. And I know that they want to chase after that title as well. And that kind of leads myself into Riley's thought this morning early on. But I think that you can get multiple trophies in a season with this group. And I just, personally, I'd love to know how long they're going to stay together before you have what we've come to expect, come back and be a part of the Atlanta United year-to-year database of material with players moving on and players moving up.
You will. I think that's just the life of a club in Major League Soccer with this type of ambition. You're going to have players who come, you're going to have players who go, you're going to reload. That's just part of the lifespan. But I think this group this year has a higher ceiling. I completely agree. Riley and Sean and others, we're going to save the Open Cup conversation for the next segment because we do have to get into the Florida Soccer Soldiers advancing in the Open Cup and things we'd like to see in the tournament as a whole. Katie Weaver had a question. She's enjoying the Soccer Down Here lunch break edition of the show. Saw a stat about Joseph playing lots of minutes already. In the 9 role he plays in this system, he has more involvement in build-up, etc. Do you think the club will be more cautious with his minutes? If he's rested, can Romario play that more active role? I think Romario can. I think the problems that we've seen with Romario at Atlanta United too has been consistency. Yes. And that's honestly been the story for him through his career. When he is on, he is very, very good and very, very dangerous. And he can do all of the things that Joseph Martinez does in this role. He can drop in. He's got more size, honestly, so it's a little bit easier for him to body defenders off. So he can hold players off. He can connect passes. He's very good on the dribble, very quick with his feet. It's just consistency. And that's the only thing you're looking for him at this point. And honestly, that could be just a factor of not seeing consistent playing time. And it's hard to be up and down, up and down. When you're in the spot that he's in, you have to be ready to take advantage of the minutes that you get. So I do think he can play that more active role. And I think if he gets the opportunity, the better he does, the more minutes he will get. And that's just how it is for, I think, anyone who's on the outside of the regular group. But I think he has that ability. I really do.
No, and I'm there with you. And I would like to see more consistency out of Romario. I know that he would as well. Because there are times when you can see that he is visibly frustrated out there on the pitch. And, you understand what he wants to accomplish out there. And then sometimes, because of who he is, you'll see teams double and triple him, and it turns into a very frustrating day. So I think that, with Romario, I want to see him get more time, and I want him to be more consistent with that time in that time that he's getting.
This is going to be an interesting week when it comes to the fantasy league, because you are getting squad rotation, and it is a little trickier to predict. So I agree that with the commissioner's comments in his update, be ready to make changes when lineups are released. So if you didn't know, lineups come out an hour before kickoff. This week is probably one of the hardest because you've got teams like Atlanta, who's already had a lot of games in a short span of time. So you will see changes in Atlanta's lineup tonight. Obviously, we already know Michael Parkhurst, Darlington Nagbe not here with the team. Other teams are going to see it too. So be ready to jump on those changes if needed. And also make sure you're following Jason Wright, AGEN, and Jason Wright Agency on Facebook, AGEN on Twitter. So you're up to date with everything going on fantasy update wise. And if you have any insurance needs, whether they are personal or commercial, check out Jason Wright's page and get everything you need there. So here's the update from the commish for week 11. In the open league, Lackadaisical was the top point getter for week 11. 163 points total.
Wow.
That's fourth overall out of the Atlanta United League and 57th overall in all of MLS. Top 0.002%. That's good. That's really good.
That's 1,000, the top 1,000ths of the percent.
That is a high percentile, Lackadaisical. Goldmine and Irish were very close with 153 points. Marketable Commodities got busted from 2nd to 7th on Sunday. The Sunday results did not go very well.
Yes, it did.
Rankings
Sunday
in the open
did not
league.
go well for us.
Yeah. Rankings. Joseph Martinez uses the Oxford comma, is still number 1, which is still a great team name. Soccer Specific Fantasy Team number 2, and Don't Var Me Bro is number 3 in the open league. Pro Rel League. The Soccer Specific Fantasy Team is 10-0-1 on 30 points. 6 points back, tied with 24. Darren Neal's Dream Team, Don't Var Me Bro, and Cam Do Attitude. But there's a big matchup this week. Cam Do Attitude was one of the top teams last year. They're facing off with Soccer Specific Fantasy Team. Can they put an L on Soccer Specific Fantasy Team this week? We'll have to see if Cam Do Attitude can do it. They're in 4th. They're only 6 points back. It's still early. They can move up.
Right now, there is no L in Soccer Specific Fantasy League. In fantasy, there is no L.
No. There might be one at the end of the week, though. We'll have to see.
Mm-hmm.
Week 12, you've got 9 teams with 2 games this week, and they all start today. Atlanta, both games away. DC, both games away. Dallas, they're away, then home. Houston, both games at home, which is very nice. LAFC, home, then away. Orlando, away, then home. Seattle, home, then away. Toronto, home, then away. Vancouver, home, then away. So Houston Dynamo, start looking at Dynamo players first off. LAFC and Dallas play each other twice this week, which is very weird and just silly. And don't do these things, MLS, please.
Nope.
Watch for your rotation. Check your lineups as they're released 60 minutes before kickoff. You want to have some extra options in case players are rotated, because it will happen this week. It has to for a few teams. Just looking at the action tonight then. So your games tonight that you have to make decisions on if you want players from these teams in your team. Toronto hosting DC. It's the 8 o'clock game. Houston hosting Portland. That's 8:30. Vancouver hosting Atlanta, 10 o'clock. Seattle hosting Orlando, 10:30. And then tomorrow, LAFC hosting Dallas at 10. Who are you looking at in these double team, double point, double match weeks in your squad, John?
A lot.
Uh-oh. This could be good or bad.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you yourself said that with the this was last week when we all have pretty much the same 2 or 3 players up at the top, that you have to be different. You have to be daring.
It's true. You got to take some chances.
So we're going to be daring. Let's see what happens.
You can't have Zlatan like everybody has Zlatan.
Oh, no. He has been summarily removed from my roster because
you have to have other things.
I don't like him. after what he pulled with the Pride of Brookwood, Sean Johnson. He was removed from my roster for disciplinary reasons.
Okay.
So, in net, we have Brad.
Okay.
Defense, Miles, Minor
right.
Figueroa,
Like that one.
Houston. And then I have Calvo and Steris, who are only playing singles right now. Calvo's got San Jose. Steris has Colorado.
Steris is a good pick. If you're looking at a single game team, the Galaxy playing Colorado is definitely one you can pick on a little bit.
Midfield, and they're all doubles. Pitti, Pozuelo, Tomas Martinez from Houston, and I will join you as a proud supporting member of the Holding Midfielders Appreciation Society with Michael Bradley.
Yeah, I like Toronto players this week too. They get DC at home, then they go to RSL, and that's an away game where they can grab some points. I think that's a doable one on the road for the Reds. So, yeah, Bradley's a pretty good play. Pozuelo's a really good play. The Holding Midfielder Appreciation Society lives on for sure. Tomas Martinez is a really good play as well. Okay, what do you have up top?
Elise and Captain De Vela.
Yeah, that's completely realistic. I like it. For Houston, your other two potential plays would be Manotas and Memo Rodriguez that you'd want to consider. Trying to think if there's another Houston one I would go to. Those are the ones that I'd probably stick to.
Yeah, Manotas in the league is at 11-2. Elise is at 11-3. Kyoto is listed at a 7 at a forward position, but his game average is at 1.8. Rodriguez in the midfield is at 6.9. His average is 5.25. So that puts his average slightly ahead of Martinez and far cheaper. And then Boniek Garcia is at 6.7. Then defensively, you've got Struna, Fuenmayor, both in the high 5s. Lundqvist in the low 5s. De La Garza at a 5. And that's why I went with Figueroa at 6.9 on a double week.
So Portland's the weird one this week. They play tonight, but then they don't play on the weekend. One player to keep in mind for Portland who should be eligible to play tonight, according to reports out of Portland, Brian Fernandez, the newcomer from Necaxa. I guess he's not going to be suspended. I guess that's not going to carry over from Liga MX. Or he got credit for time served. I have no idea. But
listed
Brian
at
Fernandez
10.
should be available at 10. That's... If you think Brian Fernandez can do what we saw in Liga MX and he can translate that to a Portland team and make it work with Blanco and Valeri and Abobasi up top, that's a steal price-wise. You only get one game from him this week, and is he going to slot straight in as a starter? I don't know. I probably would, to be honest, coming off of a season with Necaxa. It's not like he's out of shape or out of practice or anything. So keep a good thought there on Brian Fernandez. That could be a really good play, and that's a good number too that could work for you over time if you look at the long-term strategy of building a roster. So game start tonight, 8 o'clock. Lineups will start coming out at 7 o'clock for that Toronto DC game. Check your lineups all week. And again, make sure you're following Jason Wright, AGEN on Twitter, Jason Wright Agency on Facebook. Thanks to Jason for organizing everything and keeping us updated on all of the latest in the fantasy MLS world. Now, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk U.S. Open Cup. We're going to talk about the Florida Soccer Soldiers.
Woo-hoo.
We're going to talk about the matches tonight, and then there's some questions about what to do to make the Open Cup a bigger deal. Seems like these come up every year, and we'll give you our thoughts on that right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus, and Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, May 15th. West Coast Morning Show edition from Vancouver. Lunchtime for some of you, between breakfast and lunch for others of us. Ricky Ricardo has a suggestion for lunch, and I'm frankly terrified because I looked at the menu. Ricky Ricardo is telling me to get a Japa dog. I don't know where this phenomenon came from. I like hot dogs. John can attest to this. I like a good hot dog with different toppings and different styles. I'm all into the hot dog. It's great. A hot dog with mayonnaise and seaweed and there's something else on the original one. And that was one of the tamer options, actually. I don't mind taking some chances on the cuisine from time to time.
The teriyaki one actually looks pretty good.
Ricky, I appreciate the suggestion, but I am not feeling that adventurous today on a game day. So maybe next time.
Shaked fries, maybe?
No. I'm going to keep it very simple. I'm probably going to find some soup for lunch is what I'm going to do.
Cook fries in a paper bag, seasoning and shaking them until coated.
Sounds really good. But I'm going to keep it very simple because it is a game day and there's work to do tonight from BC Place. There was work that the Florida Soccer Soldiers did in Charlotte last night. I learned the hard way that ESPN Plus does not translate across the border. And could not watch the Open Cup on ESPN Plus, and I was very, very sad about it. But I got to go old school and pull up the hashtag and just keep hitting reload as this thing went on. The Florida Soccer Soldiers, which is a team in the UPSL in Florida, in the Miami area, they pulled off the upset in week 1 of the Open Cup, and they pulled off the biggest cup set so far of round 2. Coming back and scoring in the 119th minute in extra time to send it to penalties and then winning the penalty shootout. The Florida Soccer Soldiers, who practice a couple times a week, probably some of those guys had to work today in Florida after playing in Charlotte last night. They converted all of their penalties against a professional team. And craziness is Enzo Martinez, who last year was playing for the Colorado Rapids, his penalty is saved, and that sends the Soccer Soldiers on to the next round where they will face the winner of tonight's North Carolina-Richmond match.
The keeper for the Soccer Soldiers led off in the shootout.
That's cojones, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
When your goalkeeper is probably your best set piece guy That's a team with some swagger. I like that. Not really any other cup sets last night. Probably the other upset of any level would be Hartford Athletic getting their first win in club history after a really difficult start in the USL Championship, beating the New York Cosmos 2-1 in Hartford, Connecticut at the University of Hartford. Other matches played out about as you would expect. The North Texas Rayados pulled it to 1-1 against OKC Energy, but the Energy went on to win 3-1.
2 PKs in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, Rayados, a good amateur side, but it's tough when you get round after round in this tournament because the travel wears on you when you're an amateur team. The fitness, and that's the biggest difference. I mean, that's why it's so amazing the Soccer Soldiers get through and convert in penalties after playing 120 minutes because they don't train like the Charlotte Independents. They don't get to work on fitness like that. The Winalda Bowl went about as expected. The Lights won 2-0 over Cal FC in the nightcap. So today,
matching red cards.
5:30. Yeah, well, it's Cal FC and Las Vegas Lights. You are going to see red when those teams match up. Today, 5:30. It's an afternoon kick in San Francisco. El Farolito hosts Fresno FC of the USL Championship. You've got a couple potential upsets because you have a couple lower-seeded teams hosting. That's one of them. Greenville Triumph hosting Charleston Battery is another one. USL League One hosting USL Championship. Des Moines Menace hosting St. Louis FC. The Menace have made runs in this tournament before. So keep an eye on those matches where you have a lower-seeded team hosting. Outside of that, there's some USL Championship on USL Championship crime happening tonight, and probably the best match of the round is New Mexico headed to Phoenix. They're playing in Scottsdale at 9:30 Eastern Time. Two really good teams in the Western Conference of the USL Championship. I'll be keeping an eye on Red Bulls U23s to see how they do in Memphis. That's a really good Red Bulls U23 squad. They could go in and pull a surprise in Memphis, a team that's been, kind of struggling this season. Outside of that, you would expect the higher seeded teams to advance in this round.
Yeah, and obviously I'll be keeping an eye on the matches in the footprint. North Carolina FC hosting Richmond Kickers. Lansing heading to Indy. Charleston and Greenville, that one's going to be first and foremost on the clicker. And then the Orange County SC, Orange County FC match will be late night.
Because that's just an epic matchup. I mean, whenever SC and FC battle it out in Orange County, you never know what's going to happen.
Throw out the records.
Yeah, it's never happened, I don't think. So there's no records. Okay. So questions about the Open Cup. And one person who covers the Open Cup very, very deeply for us here on the SDH network is Riley Miletsky. And Riley had an update of round 1, and I'm sure he'll have an update of round 2. He asked any changes you want to see in the Open Cup. And Sean Mack came back in and said, it's been said a million times, but more MLS teams playing away to lower division teams. I'm not a fan of mandating that. And the reason why is I want this tournament to be a high-level competitive tournament. And I don't think you do that by saying, okay, MLS teams, you come in round 3 and you have to go on the road. I'm all for them coming in earlier, and I'm all for more games from MLS teams in the tournament. Absolutely all for that. I don't like that this time around, I think in round 4, you're going to have 5 matches, MLS versus MLS, because of the way it breaks out. I'm not a fan of that. But I'm not a fan of mandating anybody to be on the road in a cup competition. There should be a draw, and the geographic side of it, I think, does have to play into it because there are travel considerations. But I would like to see things get simplified. And, of course, numbers can throw it year to year because you have new USL Championship teams coming in. You have new USL League One teams coming in. You do have new MLS teams coming in next year as well. I'd like to see maybe one more round with more open division teams in it, and however you break that out between NPSL, USL League 2, UPSL, the USASA qualifiers, and the different leagues. I'd like to see more of those teams get a shot. And whether it's taking the final round of qualifying that happens in the fall before the tournament starts, moving it to the spring, whatever that means, I'd like to see more teams officially in the tournament. I don't want to see the multiple rounds of play down before you get to USL Championship and MLS. I'd like to see that diminished. So, yeah, MLS teams have to play one more round of the tournament. USL Championship teams come in one round earlier. It just advances things and speeds it up a little bit more, because then you get, I think, more matchups that make the Cup special. I mean, for a Florida Soccer Soldiers team, for example, and it's an amazing story, and it will get a lot of play between now and their next game in the Cup. If they were moving into play MLS teams now, how amazing would that be for them? I mean, how amazing would it be for them to get a chance to play Orlando, or next year to potentially get a chance to play Miami? It's game changing, and it's great for the game in the country. So I want to create more of those games. I don't want to manufacture MLS teams having to go on the road, though. If it's a competition, it's a competition, and you have to have the competitive integrity of it. But I want to see more games in the tournament, and I want to see more unique matchups while still respecting the geographic principles of it.
And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for special moments, and I don't want to force feed an idea and take away from a special moment. I mean, honestly, looking at Florida Soccer Soldiers the last 2 rounds and having that turn into must-see TV for the last however long if you're not watching it, and then you sit there and on your timeline, oh, this team is challenging Charlotte Independence. And I think this is probably just my computer, but I literally had to log back into ESPN Plus 3 times because of the sheer volume of folks who were probably watching, and my screen was locking up. Same with Nashville SC and South Georgia Tormenta 2. I was having issues getting in to watch that one. And that to me means it's a good problem to have when you have all of these people who are gravitating toward a game like, Tormenta 2, who was down 2-0 in Murfreesboro to Nashville SC. They come back, but eventually lose 3-2. But to have those kind of early round NCAA basketball tournament 4 versus 13s, 2 versus 15 kind of things, I want to see more of those, but I don't want that mandated as a part of the whole deal.
Yeah, and that's actually a good comparison to the NCAA basketball tournament. You don't see the top seeds getting buys. I mean, yes, you do have these stupid play-in games now, which are it's a 64-team tournament. I don't know why they try to say it's 68 and they make it more complicated.
Mo money.
Yeah, but is it really? I mean, I don't know. The 1 versus 16. The 1 should win. They're almost always going to win.
Unless you're Maryland, Baltimore County.
One time. But that's the thing. And this is what we always do. We always say, well, okay, it's Leicester winning the Premier League. It was a 1 in a million shot. But it's the drama of it. So, yes, MLS teams should have to play more of those games and show their quality. And 9 times out of 10 or 9.5 times out of 10 or 9.8 times out of 10, they're going to win that. But the game overall is going to grow as a result of it. I think it's a great thing. Florida Soccer Soldiers are a little unique because they're in a major metropolitan area in Miami. But let's say you get an amateur team from Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Christos
is a good one, yeah. But let's say you get a team from even further outside of that type of footprint. You get a team who, Murfreesboro, and they get drawn to the tournament and they get to play Atlanta United or Nashville SC or Birmingham Legion, and they get to bring them to Murfreesboro, and it's a big deal. Those games can be big, and you see it in the FA Cup, you see it in cup competitions all over the world. I want to see more of those types of opportunities. That's what I'm hoping for, and with ESPN Plus on board, and it sounds like they're getting good numbers. it sounds like things are going really well with it. There were more people talking about the Open Cup last night than I remember generally in round 2 in the past, which is great. It's more accessible. All of that's good. There's still room to grow it. And I think it's just more teams, more matches, and more opportunities for the Giants to play the potential Cinderellas. You know, you want to see that. How many times have we seen an amateur team, a truly amateur, even outside of USL League 2, like complete amateur open division qualifier, play an MLS team? It's 2-3 times. Dallas Roma did it, back in 05, 06, where they played Chivas USA, beat them, and then lost to the Galaxy. Christos playing DC. It's not easy to do. Would love to see more opportunities for that to happen.
Agree, concur, and second your opinion, counselor.
Yeah, it's a great tournament, and I think it's something that MLS will benefit from. I think it's something the USL Championship and USL League One teams benefit from already, and it's U.S. Soccer's tournament. And I think they're looking at it now as, whoa, wait a minute, we might actually have something here.
Yeah,
I realized that finally.
Strange how that works.
Yeah, you know, and the growth of the game overall, and the growth of the lower division clubs, you know, whether you're talking lower division professional or the open division amateur, all of that is necessary. And I think way too often in this country, you get people who say that, you know, their game or their league or their team and the way they do it is the only right way and everybody else is wrong and blah, 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 blah. Look, MLS needs the Christos and Florida Soccer Soldiers stories in a big way. They're good for the game in this country. And those teams, and even the ones in the ADASL, the ones in your local leagues all over the country, they need MLS to thrive and succeed. And some of them would tell you that they don't, but they do, because that's what's driving the game at that level. Not everybody's on the same level, and that's okay. But the Open Cup is the place where you can get everybody into the same competition and see those matchups, but also grow the game across the country. And the other thing I want to see with the Open Cup, the Women's Open Cup. It has to happen.
Yes.
I mean, at this stage, you have the NWSL, you have the WPSL, you have amateur women's teams outside of the WPSL. A Women's Open Cup should be a mandate from U.S. Soccer, and it needs to happen ASAP. So that's another big thing I want to see with the Open Cup, and get that on ESPN Plus as well. Get this stuff moving and get the women's game growing with an Open Cup, because I think it could have a massive impact on the game there as well. Let's take a break. We'll be back for hour number 2. We'll talk a lot of Atlanta and Vancouver, and we have some questions from you guys to lead us off. And Jarrett Smith will be joining us, and Mike Conti will be joining us, and Doug Robertson will be joining us. It's a crowded show in hour number 2. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. He Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Skype is being very friendly today. Thank you, Skype gods. And Jared Smith is now with us. The Canadian Skype was mean yesterday, but it's good today. What's up, Jared?
Not much. This feels really weird with all three of us back.
Yeah, what's going on? This is like a throwback. This is strange. Yeah. I don't know how to handle this.
Street Post throwback, and today is kind of like an SDH throwback. It's a bit of whiplash-ish.
Yeah, it's something. Well, you got the throwback for about 10 minutes or so, because then I am off to talk to the midday show at 92.9 The Game, and Mike Conti's going to sub in for me with you guys. And then we've got Doug to come back in and close it out with predictions. Yeah, this is definitely a Texas death match of some sort, for sure.
It's a lumberjack match. You leave the ring, you come in. Yeah, this is a Texas tornado match.
Yeah, it's complicated. We will do our best. Michael Ruiz with a question to kick us off about Atlanta and Vancouver. What is your expectation for how Vancouver will defend us as well as attack us today? And how does Breck respond against his former club? Let's start with Breck Shea. Jarrett, what do you think?
I think he's going to get the start. I would expect him to get close to 90 minutes. I hope he does what he did against Orlando, where he came into that game and beat one or two guys off the dribble and kind of helped shore things up a bit. You know, Justin Miram and Breck Shea just putting down the garage door on Orlando there. Orlando was also tired, but don't let that get in the way of it. I'm very curious what he brings to it, because in my head, when I think Orlando, I get that Kendall Waston isn't there anymore. In my head, though, I still have this image of Kendall Waston skying everybody on set pieces, which is something that Breck Shea brings to Atlanta United that they haven't had before. And it's kind of the shoes on the other foot in that regard, where you've got somebody now who can help you on set pieces, and not necessarily just scoring, but defending them as well. I think he brings that, and I think the way Vancouver would like to go about this, where they'll sit a bit deeper and maybe spring for the counter, maybe get a couple set pieces, Breck could be really important there.
Yeah, I think Breck's going to have a lot of defensive work to do tonight, because Vancouver likes to get out on the flanks, and they're very left side dominant with Ali Adnan, who Mark Dos Santos thinks is one of the best left backs in the league, and I would agree. They still can get down the right side, though, with Nerwinski. And Jacob Nerwinski I think he's a little bit of an underrated right back in this league. He attacks better than he defends, probably. He's not Adnan, but he's a solid option going forward. He will keep Breck Shea on his toes. So that battle between the two of them, whoever can get forward more and have more of an impact offensively while keeping the opponent pinned in, is really important. But let's get back to the first part of the question from Michael, John. How do you think Vancouver defends as well as attacks tonight?
I think that when it comes to attacking, I think it's going to be on the counter. I'm not anticipating a whole lot of excitement when it comes to their attacking plan. And I think that they're going to do what a lot of other teams have done this year to Atlanta United. I think they're going to pretty much shadow Joseph and have, and put another shadow on PT as well. And I think that with Nagbe and Parker staying home, I think that what they're going to do is probably do things offensively. When they do them, they'll do them through the middle of the pitch. But I think that they're going to probably put as many men as humanly possible on Joseph and PT and try to have the rest of the 11 try to figure out ways to work it inside the area to make an impact for Atlanta.
I mean, there's some similarities between the way Vancouver plays and the way Orlando came in previously. They didn't really do as much of it, I think, with their absences at Mercedes-Benz last week, but Orlando had been playing a 4-3-3 that was pretty narrow, and you would see the outside backs get forward. For Orlando, it was right side with Juan, who would get forward and bomb forward, and we saw a little bit of that against Atlanta. With Vancouver, it's just the other side. It's Adnan. But the thing about it that Atlanta has to be ready for, and again, Orlando didn't do as much of this as I thought they would, so some of Atlanta's preparation for Orlando didn't actually play out in that match, but hopefully it helps you with this one against Vancouver, because your front three, it's very narrow. Your wide forwards tuck inside a lot for Vancouver. Las Bangura, Lucas Venuto, they tuck inside. They don't really give you that width, but they run off of Freddie Montero. So how Atlanta defends that will be, I think, what decides the game, to be perfectly honest, because with Adnan bombing forward, let's say it's Franco Escobar on that side, he's going to have 1v1 defending to do. Then you have LGP, Miles Robinson, and Breck Shea defending against three. You're going to have to get somebody to drop in and help. And if that's Jeff Florenowitz tonight or Eric Remetti or both, okay. That can be a situation that Vancouver can try to take advantage of. Now, then the flip side occurs. When Ali Adnan goes forward and loses possession, and this is something he does a lot because he takes chances in the attacking zone, can Atlanta exploit that? I think what Vancouver does really well that Orlando didn't really do in their matches leading up to Atlanta was their midfield would cover for Adnan. So if you look at some of the heat maps and things from Vancouver, their three central midfielders, which are all more deep lying, shade to the left. They shade to the left because Adnan has the green light to go at all times. Now, okay, it might not be as hard to do the obvious thing, to attack behind Adnan, but you are going to have space if you go with that big switch. And this is something we've seen Atlanta do a lot, where they switch from one side to the other very quickly with the long ball and then go down the other side. I think that's how Atlanta exploits Vancouver. And I do feel like this is a Vancouver team under Marc Dos Santos that is building to something, but I think they're just further behind in that development to where they're trying to get than Atlanta is. I think Atlanta's progress has been faster than Vancouver's.
Here's my question for all.
Yeah, what's your question? No, I was just going to say, no, I agree with that. The Santos and Vancouver are working towards something, and Marc Dos Santos has the pedigree. We've seen it from his time in the NASL at San Francisco, building something in a first-year team that wins a title, and he's pieced it together on a bunch of different levels. I think they're getting somewhere. They've got a little while. Jared, go for it.
So let's say you do have a guy going forward a lot, and let's say it is Franco out there. I don't know if it's going to be. Let's say it is, for fun. Do we see more of, depending on who's playing with Franco, assuming they make some changes, do we see more of Franco doing what we saw a little bit of the other night, where on those runs, he didn't overlap and run down the inline. He was overlapping and cutting inside. Do we see more of that, where he can make that run that creates another incredibly fast runner for a guy like PT to play off of?
Well, that's the next level. Is can he do the job defensively first to prevent Adnan from attacking down that side, and then can he attack to keep Adnan back? That would be the next level of it.
My question: Do you trust whoever might be starting to also help provide that defensive cover when he does make that run in case there's a turnover? If it's a Pereira, if it's somebody like that,
you're going to have to, if you're going to let Franco go as much as that, and whether it's Gressel on the right side or Pereira or Merrim or whoever it could be, they're going to have to be cognizant of it when Escobar goes, because Adnan has the green light at all times. I think it's a little harder to be that adventurous if Vancouver comes out in the same shape, because they have three up top, and it's a three that stay pretty narrow. So Atlanta's outside backs are going to have to pick their spots. I don't think they're going to have as many opportunities to get forward as they generally do. It's going to be a fun one. It's an interesting matchup between two teams that I think are still finding themselves. Atlanta has found a whole lot more than Vancouver so far, but Vancouver has been pretty good at limiting chances for the opposition. They're just not getting as many attacking opportunities as Atlanta does right now. So it'll be an interesting chess match between two managers tonight. More questions from you guys after this, and also Mike Conti will be joining John and Jarrett to lead the next segment. We'll be right back after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
So which one of us brings it back?
I'm counting on you, John. I'm following your lead.
Okay. So
I'm pretty sure
now
you
the
just
Texas,
did, so
yeah. So the Texas Tornado match continues with now at Mike Conti 929 stepping in for the second day in a row from Vancouver. So how has your experience been there in Vancouver, sir, ?
It's been nice. It was kind of a lousy, rainy day yesterday, so we were confined to this hotel room where we watched a lot of third-rate international hockey games on Canadian television. But much nicer day today. We get to do a match and go home, and I think when we're done with SDH, we're going to go out and walk around a little bit because it's beautiful outside today. But it's like we talked about yesterday. If you can get the time off and make this road trip, it's worth it. This is a great city, great food scene, very picturesque with the mountains and the bay and everything like that. Very friendly people. So put this on your bucket list 2 years from now when Atlanta United comes back here. If you're thinking about it, it'll be well worth it.
Okay. Perusing
and just follow
the
Mike
Twitter.
wherever he goes, because
Yes.
if there's someone in this world who knows where the good restaurants are going to be, and not just the fancy restaurants, but the ones that you'll walk away happy and satisfied, just follow Mike.
Well,
Yes.
I'm batting 500 on that because the dim sum yesterday for lunch was fantastic. We tried going to this place for dinner last night that Surrey told me was open, and it wasn't. So we had to walk next door to a bar, and Jason's poutine was just average. I think he told you there wasn't really enough cheese. I got pierogi, which you can't get in Atlanta. That's awesome. I was really glad to see that, but it was just so-so. So I feel bad for Jason and Doug Robertson. I made the recommendation last night, and I failed. I'm going to try to atone for that on lunch today.
Let's see. Since it is a SDH lunchtime / way back Wednesday / wall pass Wednesday, one of Jason's favorite Twitter accounts, handles of all time, at Waka Tata Flame, says, "Please tell me there's no chance of a rain delay tonight. Just now tuning into the afternoon drive episode."
It is a retractable roof stadium. I would imagine they'll probably have the roof open because it's that nice a day. So no, I mean, heck, I don't think they have thunderstorms up here in August, let alone May. Very pretty day. I would assume roof open tonight. Temperatures in the mid 60s. You know me, I've already started looking ahead to Red Bulls. Looks beautiful out there this weekend. So I think our weather woes for the season, we got more than enough of that in Columbus. I think that might be in the rearview mirror finally.
Okay. Question on the floor from Jordan Soreski from Terminus Legion. And it is a travel issue. It is a travel question. Is Atlanta United flying straight to Newark or stopping back in Atlanta for recovery and training? And this is to Jason. See you and at Mike Conti 929 in Harrison with about 25 of us in Terminus Legion.
Awesome. Good. We'll be looking for you on Sunday. You're sitting directly across the stadium from where we are, so we'll try to make it over. Atlanta United is going straight back after the game. They're using 2 of their 4 league-allowed charter legs this year on this trip, so they're going back to Atlanta. I think we're supposed to get back around 6:30 in the morning. They will regen in Atlanta tomorrow. They can then do a full training on Friday, a full training on Saturday if they want in Atlanta, and then go to New York. So this is where using a charter really, really helps you. If you had to fly commercial, there is no direct flight back to Atlanta tomorrow, so you're basically wasting a whole day in transit. This way, you tell everyone, do your best to sleep on the plane, go home, get a few more hours, come to the facility tomorrow afternoon, and it's almost like nothing even happened. So this is the best of a tough travel situation for Atlanta United, and unfortunately you have an ownership group that's willing to spend the money to charter this team and help them in any way possible navigate the stretch.
Jarrett, from Michael Head, and since we're on a schedule riff here, Michael says, I know scheduling is complicated. However, why this 3-match road trip? It seems like MLS purposely made this stretch overly difficult. We play Red Bulls twice. Why not switch those home and away matches with a question mark? What do you think, Jared?
I mean, on the other hand, you've got like every other year you're going to have to make this long trek out west. On the other hand, on the off years where you're not making long trek out west, everyone comes to you. You only have to go to the West Coast twice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not a bad situation to be in. It's kind of an all or nothing thing, and maybe you would want it split out with 1 or 2 trips during the season. But what you've got is what you've got, so you just kind of roll with what you got, and you make the best of it.
What would be
Did you get the money out of the ATM?
I mean, we got to get west somehow, right? I wish I could go out the game tonight, but unfortunately, this is not England, and I cannot just hop on a train and travel for an hour and go see a rival. I'd actually have to, go full Lewis and Clark, and I'm not doing that.
Well, I think, John and Jarrett, what would be nice is if the league could find a way in the scheduling computer where, if you're going to send an East Coast team out west and they're playing the Portland, Seattle, Vancouver pod, as Atlanta United is playing this year, then maybe you can get Portland and Seattle Wednesday, Sunday. Or maybe you can get, Seattle, Vancouver Sunday, Wednesday. And then maybe the next time you go out, you get RSL and Portland back-to-back to at least minimize the travel a little bit. Atlanta United was very fortunate last year. Their longest road trip of the season was L.A. when they played Galaxy. Their second longest road trip, as far as miles flown, was San Jose, but they put a Colorado match right before that. So Atlanta United played in Denver, went straight to San Jose, trained there for 3 days, and then went home on a charter. There are probably some creative ways, and the NBA does a pretty good job of when they send a West Coast team east, you're going to play Washington, Charlotte, Atlanta, Orlando, Miami, all on that same road trip. This is something you're going to see in the 2026 World Cup probably, where they're going to try to keep groups all in the same time zone. So if you're in Group A, you might play a match in New York, a match in Boston, a match in Philadelphia. If you're in Group F, you might play a match in Monterey, a match in Houston, a match in Dallas. Does that make sense? If they can figure that out for World Cup, if they can figure out all the other major sports leagues, certainly you can figure it out in MLS, especially because the vast majority of the teams in this league control their own stadiums and are not tenants in someone else's stadium where they play second fiddle to a Shakira concert.
All right, Mike, we went over this one before you hopped in here in the Texas Tornado match, but I wanted to get your feedback on it as well. Michael Ruiz asked us, what is your expectation for how Vancouver will defend and attack today, and how does Breck respond against his former club?
Well, Vancouver doesn't score a lot of goals anyway. I heard what Jason said. Philosophically, it might be more of an Orlando approach than, say, a Toronto approach or an SKC approach. Adnan is the X factor because he is someone who can get forward and give you a second threat going forward, but I anticipate this to be low scoring. I anticipate Vancouver to play conservatively, as they did Friday night when they got a 1-0 win over Portland. They did not dominate possession in that game. Vancouver will be more than content to let Atlanta United have the ball tonight. As far as Breck is concerned, this is the type of match where it really helps to have him, not only because he's going against his former team, but because you're able to alternate him and Parkhurst. Last week, he comes into this with relatively fresh legs. I know Breck has been the subject of a lot of conversation this year. I think he's been totally fine. I think he's been more than adequate for what he was brought in here to do. You're going to have the luxury now of Mikey Ambrose hopefully coming back pretty soon, where he becomes a third option for you at left back. But here's where I think, with Parkhurst not on the trip, Breck is a veteran, has been down this road before. He's played for the Whitecaps. There are certain intangibles that he'll be able to bring to this match tonight. And you're going to need him. You're going to need him and Jeff Lorenowitz and their leadership in a match like this tonight, because anytime you play on the road in this league, it's tricky, no matter who you're playing against. And Vancouver, to probably a lot of people's surprise, one of the hottest teams in this league right now. They've earned 11 points over their last 6 matches, which is behind only Atlanta, Philadelphia, New York City, and LAFC over that span. So they're playing good soccer. You're going to need a guy like Breck Shea who can calm the match down and give you some veteran experience.
Doug Robertson of the AJC. Go ahead, Jarrett.
I hoped I wouldn't have to do this again this year, but you know what? Hell with it. I guess we're having to do it again this year. I tweeted it out during the game the other night. Breck Shea and Michael Parkhurst aren't your starting left backs.
They aren't. That's exactly right.
Third and fourth options.
That's exactly right.
Mikey Ambrose's leg keeps blowing up, and George Bello, you're taking your time with him because he's a young talent. It's the same thing with Chris McCann last year. He's getting time at left back, not because he's your first choice, but because somebody had to step up and do the job. It may not be perfect, but, man, the alternative of using a ghost runner out there from Little League Baseball, it ain't good.
Well, and I love the whole notion from the, quote, I want my old Atlanta United back, unquote, crowd, is that if Atlanta had Greg Garza, this wouldn't be a problem. Garza has had trouble getting on the field in Cincinnati because he's been hurt. So you were going to have this problem no matter what. Breck Shea was brought in here as a depth piece, and then you had an unexpected problem with George Bello that got aggravated, and then on top of it, Mikey Ambrose got hurt. Jared is spot on. Breck Shea is doing way more than he was asked to do at the beginning of the season, and I think he has been more than adequate. For whatever reason, people like to focus on one guy. I think Chris McCann was that guy last year. Chris McCann certainly didn't cost you an MLS Cup last year, right? In fact, he played in the Cup final at the end. So I'm totally fine with everything that Breck Shea has given you this year, and I look forward to another match like the one he had against Herediano up in Kennesaw, where he can silence some doubters, because there are a lot of things that Breck Shea can do for you that are very, very positive that sometimes go unnoticed unless they directly lead to goals.
Jeremy York from the Impact. I'll remind you, Doug Robertson of the AJC coming up at the bottom of the hour-ish for his game day segment. We'll get into predictions. Mike Conti does not give predictions. He gives tendencies, and he gives things to keep an eye out for. So that's kind of why we asked that question. So Doug's around the corner. Don't forget to go to the Bailey Daily Poll at JBailey86. Give us your predictions for what you think. Is it going to be a loss? Is it going to be an Atlanta draw? Is Atlanta going to win by 1? Or is it win by 2 or more? So JBailey86. Doug Robertson currently in the lead in those standings. Your two-time defending champ right now is a very distant 4th in the standings. So that we're going to have to turn that around by being a little daring. Jeremy York, Mike, and our friends at the Impact have a question. On a hashtag WallPass Wednesday, could we see a 4-team free-for-all in MLS like we saw in the Premier League? And which 4 teams would it be? He has a prediction also of 2-0. Joseph and LGP. Enjoy the game, guys. Good luck on the call.
4-team free-for-all for the Shield, I'm assuming?
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming as well.
Well, I mean, as of right now, you know, you look at those 3 top teams in the West. I think, LAFC is sitting on 28 right now. It feels like they've really pulled away. But there's so much racetrack left in this season. If it got down to a 4-team free-for-all, I would say right now it looks like LAFC, Seattle, Houston, and Atlanta would be your 4. And I only say Atlanta because if you look at points per match and matches in hand, if they win their 2 matches in hand, including tonight, they're right there with the leaders in the East. I don't trust Philadelphia. New York City's been interesting. I think they've overperformed their expectations. They've been really good lately. I'd like to see a little more consistency, a little less, earning draws and a little more getting wins on the road. But to me, I think that's your 4 right now. I think it's LAFC, it's Seattle, it's Houston, it's Atlanta. Galaxy could get in there. Philadelphia could give me a reason to believe. I just don't see them dominating opponents yet. For that matter, Atlanta, I think, probably has a little bit more to prove if they are legitimately going to be in that discussion, because you want to go out and see them dominate as they did last Sunday in Kansas City. Need to see that a little bit more consistently. But, you pretty much had a 2-team free-for-all last year. Red Bulls with, 71 and Atlanta United with 69. So absolutely it could happen. Be a lot of fun. And it becomes very important this year because only the top seed in each conference gets a bye. So, to use the Liverpool analogy, you could be looking at Houston potentially on, 68, 69, 70 points and having to play a knockout game, which would be pretty crazy.
And Jarrett, when you look at those 3 teams that Mike mentioned in the free-for-all in the West, at home, a combined 15-0-4 right now this year. LAFC, Seattle, and Houston at home.
Houston's question for me will always be, can you do it on the road? Because that's been the problem with Houston for years now, is they just haven't been able to do it on the road. If they're able to, man, Houston's an MLS Cup contender, because I don't know how much people are paying attention. Houston's fun as hell to watch. I mean, they've been fun for a while. It's almost like I feel like they're clicking the way I had hoped RSL would click. Like, you had this young talent that's just coming together and it's starting to really work now.
And you look at the East, Mike, and you'd mentioned points per game average. Right there with Philadelphia is DC at 1.92, and they're 23 points. 4-2-1 at home, 3-1-1 away from Audi Field. What do you think is the Achilles for a team like DC?
The Achilles for a team like DC, as someone has pulled a fire alarm in our hotel, apparently.
Yeah, Jarrett, stop pulling fire alarms.
I'm going to pretend that this is a false alarm, and I will persist on Soccer Down here.
There you go.
Oh, it's a fire drill. Excuse me. So only the people who work here have to evacuate. So I think we can keep going.
So we have a fire drill going on right now in the hotel in Vancouver.
but only for associates. So I'm legal. I can stay in the room and keep going. Now, what I'm a little bit nervous about, guys, this is funny because Jason went downstairs to go on with 92.9. And if they have shut the elevators off in this hotel because they're doing a fire drill, I hope one of you can explain how I can throw this to break and get Doug on Skype. Because right now I'm looking at a lot of buttons and things on the screen that I don't really understand right now. And on top of it, I'm trying to talk over a fire alarm, which I'm sure you can audibly hear, right?
Oh, that's tremendous.
Well, it's the first for soccer down here, right, guys?
No doubt. It is a first. This is the first fire alarm that we've had to talk through.
I don't know how to throw it a break. We'll just
No. We'll just cross our fingers that Jason can get back upstairs. I mean, if they're only making the associates do this, I'm assuming they're going to let the guests go upstairs. Anyhow, what was the question, John, about teams in the East?
Yeah, just we'd mentioned the fatal four-way, and three of them were in the West, and you mentioned Atlanta, and you didn't have a whole lot of faith in Philly long-term. What about a team like D.C.?
D.C. hit that really rough patch, and they seem to be kind of fighting their way out of it a little bit. As long as they stay healthy, they're going to be right there. You mentioned their form on the road, which is actually surprising to me. The way I perceive D.C. without looking at their numbers right in front of me is that, boy, it feels like they've played a lot of home games this year, doesn't it? But
I know.
They're 3-1-1 away from home this year.
May I have your
So
attention, please? May I have your attention, please?
I guess DC with them it's more of a trust issue for me. Like, do I trust them in the postseason? If you look at their form since when they acquired Rooney to right now, their record's got to be scary good, right? Since they got Rooney.
Yeah.
Scary good, but they dipped very early in the postseason because they ran out of gas. They had match compression last year. So amid the distraction of the fire alarm, I guess I can't really come up with a good reason to doubt DC right now other than kind of like Red Bulls. I don't really trust them because of their recent history in the postseason.
Are we sure that our friends in Vancouver at TSN and TSN Radio did not pull this fire alarm
I'm positive.
Make sure that you and Jason were off the game?
Let me tell you something about our buddies at TSN Radio. They have me on a lot on TSN Vancouver to talk about Falcons. That started with the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they've had me on a lot. I love those guys. They're super polite. They ask very concise questions. They don't waste your time on the phone. If they are behind this, I would be very, very surprised because they're about as nice as it gets. They're Canadians. They're polite. They're very pleasant people. They're not combative or confrontational. So, no, they're off the hook. Do they have their own radio announcers or do they simulcast TV on the radio?
I think they simulcast our buddy Peter Shad.
I think you're right.
On 1040 with that bunch. So, you have Halford and Bro in the morning, Donnie and the Moj middays, and Sakaris and Price in the afternoons. But friend of the show, Peter Shad, is first and foremost in our minds when he's talking about Vancouver.
Well,
Wakatata Flame. Yeah.
When in high schools across the state of Georgia, they have these nozzles of spray paint attached to fire alarms. So if a kid should pull the fire alarm as a prank, their hand will get painted orange or something like that.
Oh, that's great.
If Peter is behind that here and they're equipped in the same way at the hotel in Vancouver, then I guess I'll be checking his hands tonight to see if they're orange.
Yeah, see, now, apparently this show has already skyrocketed into the top episodes ever because of your background music. Okay, so literally, here's what people have been saying on Twitter. Daniel Price is saying that this is the best SDH ever, and with the fire alarm going on behind you. And Patrick Cox agrees, says best week of episodes on SDH this week with the crazy Monday show, fire alarms today. And apparently, according to and according to Wakatata Flame, he says that Mike, you need to be ready for fireworks about to start outside the window with the Vancouver announced team with the little CONCACAF-style gamesmanship today.
Oh, no, we aren't in Orlando. That's not how they roll here. I do have good news. The elevators were not turned off. Longshore has returned. So if you would like to execute a break and bring Doug on, we can do that if you want.
Yeah, that would be a long shoe fingers doing the walking across the board since he's in charge of the board there on the West Coast. So that probably would be a decent plan.
All right. Well, then I'm going to hit the button, and I guess Doug Robertson of the AJC after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky and Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Well, look, it's going to be Five Stripes After Dark tonight, so all the ridiculousness that can happen just get used to it. I don't know what happened while I was out. I have no clue. It sounded like there's a fire alarm, I'm guessing, and I'm on the air with Andy and Randy on 92.9, and ambulances everywhere and sirens everywhere. I think Randy McMichael thought I was getting arrested. It was chaos.
Nothing wrong with chaos.
Yeah, something like that. I did get to drop in a Tim Hortons reference, though, so that was always fun.
Oh, Timbits.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I believe we have Doug on the line. Doug?
I am.
Aha!
Did you pull the fire alarm in the hotel?
No. Did someone do that, actually?
Yeah, last segment we had a fire alarm, it sounds like. I was not here for that segment. I walk away and chaos ensues, Doug.
What time was that?
About
like
20
literally
minutes ago.
20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. God, what a beautiful day it is.
Yes.
I've already walked almost 4 miles today around the city.
Wow.
I don't know what it's like in Metro Atlanta, but it is an absolutely beautiful day in Vancouver, British Columbia, the site of Atlanta and Vancouver tonight over at BC Place.
It's very nice. All of you are gone.
Wow, thanks, Jared. We appreciate it.
No, it's not my fault.
Man.
Start believing.
Man,
the universe is lined up against you.
Well, we'll see what it's like when we get back tomorrow, and we'll see what it's like in New Jersey on Sunday. Hopefully as good as this. But, Doug, let's get into this tonight. I keep zeroing in on the matchup between Ali Adnan and probably Franco Escobar, who I would expect to get the start.
All clear.
We're getting the all clear on the fire alarm now, just in case there was any concerns. We're good. Everybody's going to be okay. But let's try to keep this on some kind of a pathway of something at this point. Doug, Escobar, do you think he gets to start tonight? And do you think the matchup with him and Adnan is going to be the key?
I don't know who else would start if not Escobar at this point. I'm trying to think of another right back on the roster with Parkhurst hopefully out playing golf or doing something fun in Atlanta.
I hope Parky is playing golf. That's a good call.
But, yeah, and Adnan, I mean, I go through Vancouver stats and I go through their game by game, and there is not a player on this team that makes me think Atlanta United has to specifically game plan for that person. So if you think it's Adnan versus Escobar, I'm not going to argue with you. It's just a team. I think I picked them as the worst team in Major League Soccer in my preseason predictions because of a new coach and because of a total roster overhaul that they've done. And I didn't predict New England's implosion, but I think by the end of the season, Vancouver is going to be right there fighting with the Revs for the worst team in soccer.
Go ahead, John.
You know, because Doug, I remember that conversation that we were having in an assisted motor vehicle device in Costa Rica. Because I remember us having that conversation. And I know that there are guys like a Freddie Montero who can be really, really good or really, really frustrating. When it comes to Vancouver and the number of points for these two matches for Atlanta United, in looking at Vancouver and Red Bulls, in your mind, what is a satisfactory number of points to continue the momentum that has been picked up in the last 5 matches?
I think at least 4. Frankly, I think Atlanta United could probably roll out a lot of guys who aren't consistent starters and get a win in this game. Red Bulls will be a lot more difficult. Red Bulls are up and down, but fighting hard, and it's always a tough place to play for Atlanta United. But yeah, 4 points at minimum, I think, is what Atlanta United will be shooting for out of this.
Looking at the changes, Doug, that we probably will see with this team tonight. If you had to pick one change that Frank would make that's going to probably put the fan base on its head a bit, what would be the kind of the wild card change that you think would be the most surprising?
Is on its head a good thing or a bad thing?
It's all in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, that's for 90 minutes to decide.
Oh, okay. I'm curious if Flo Pogba might get a start at center back this game and give Leandro a rest. I thought that Eric Remedi might get a rest in this game, but DeBoer already said that Nagbe stayed back in Atlanta, so I'm assuming that Remedi is going to start. I don't know who is going to start in Nagbe's role. There's really not another guy like him on the team. So I'm really, really curious to see who is going to get that. I think you might see Gressel slide inside a little bit and try to be that guy with Pereira maybe starting out on the wing. But I'm curious to see who is going to start in that Nagbe role.
Yeah, that was
actually... I guess he could push Remedi up the field with Laruno, it says, if it's a midfielder, and kind of tweak the formation a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's the safer play. I think if Eric can give you a starting spot tonight, that's the easier play. And we've seen Remedi play more of that box-to-box type of role before with Jeff. I'm completely with you, though. I think one possibility is maybe Remedi not starting and Gressel getting that opportunity and pushing forward a little more. Vancouver's 3 central midfielders sit. They don't really play with a true number 10. And you can probably get away with 2 more attack-minded guys in that shape. So you could go with Gressel and Pitti playing there, with Gressel having more of the defensive responsibilities. I'm with you on Pogba, though. I think he's the one that makes the most sense, that doesn't disrupt too much, and especially in this type of matchup could work really well.
If Leandro were sitting on that 1 yellow card suspension thing, then I think you would definitely see Flo in, because they wouldn't want Leandro to miss the Red Bulls game. But because he's now 2 yellow cards, I think, away from a suspension, I think you might see Pogba, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Leandro back in there again. I mean, really, Vancouver doesn't have any big set piece kind of guy that you have to worry about either. So this whole game is just weird to me. this whole matchup.
I'm right there with you. I mean, Vancouver, I feel like, is a team that they're a work in progress, and they needed to be a work in progress because where they had been had a very low ceiling under Carl Robinson and playing for set pieces and that type of game. They're trying to be more. I just don't think they're very far along in that process yet. So they're kind of a weird team to game plan for because they don't really present a whole lot at you going forward. And the players who have been productive going forward are not in normal attacking positions, like Adnan. So it's kind of a weird matchup.
Yeah, defender is their second leading scorer.
Yeah.
And he's only got 2 goals, I think. It's just, there's not a cohesive team in my mind.
No, not yet. We're going to crowdsource something real quick. Ricky Ricardo had a great question. Since it is Five Stripes After Dark, Atlanta United has had some games that have been late night for those of us who reside in the Eastern time zone, and some crazy moments. And Ricky Ricardo asked for, I think he wanted 5. I could give you 5 from the San Jose game last year and be done with it, but Doug, what are some of your memories, since you've been with this team from day one, of these late night games from the West Coast and some of the biggest moments Atlanta's had in them?
Really, other than there's only, I think, been 2 late games on the West Coast in Atlanta United's history. The San Jose game was one, and the Seattle game in year 1 was another.
That was a late night.
Yeah, I wasn't here for that. The others, Portland was an afternoon game.
Yeah.
Vancouver 2 years ago was an afternoon game.
Galaxy last year was a night game.
Galaxy,
and that had some wackiness in it. In the first half, you had that moment where Joseph penalty off the post, and then the sequence that led to the opening goal with Gressel's shot that goes off the post and shot deflected and off of Joseph, and he kind of walks it in. That was kind of wild, but then the rest of the match, Atlanta just controlled it.
Yeah, they haven't really had too many. I mean, all of them are probably, as you said, in that San Jose game, and all in the final 10 minutes.
The Kansas City game in 17 was not as late, but it was a later kick, and the Jacob Peterson goal to
knock it off
equalize.
of Vasquez knockdown.
Yes, that would be on the list too. But yeah, probably 3 of them would be from the San Jose game. The winner, obviously, the crazy sequence where the referee starts to point to the spot to call a penalty, and everybody just stops, and Miguel Almiron's got his arms out and then says, "Oh, you didn't blow the whistle, I'm going to score." And then they equalize. And in the whole VAR situation. So I'll put those 3 on the list.
Also, the final 10 minutes of Monterey also.
Yes. And that was a late night one. True.
Yeah, that was not good for Atlanta United and arguably cost them the Champions League spot.
Yep, very true. John, next question.
The listeners have gotten into this morning.
Okay.
Chilling aspect that Atlanta United is going through, where they're the ones doing most of the heavy mileage lifting, and you have teams who aren't having the same kind of schedule compression coming off of a weekend playing midweek like Atlanta is, or they're continuing their schedule and teams have full weeks of rest. What's been your perspective on what Atlanta United has been kind of forced to go through by the schedule makers and just schedule making in general, and Atlanta United going through what they're going through right
now? I'm not big on this victim scheduling kind of thing because, I mean, there are other teams doing midweek things right now. Toronto is kind of in the same boat as Atlanta United. And I mean, what they're going through, I think they're happy because they're winning. And so that makes everything much, much different. But it all evens out. I mean, they had a month where they only had a game a week after that odd start with the Champions League. They'll have another goofy month in, I think, August it is, or September. But everybody has to go through the same thing. And I mean, this is part of being a champion. The Champions League compresses the schedule some, but you know it when you sign up for it. So you just got to deal with it.
Jarrett, one more before we get to predictions.
I was going to get to predictions, but okay, cool. I mean, hey, why not? We've already crossed into the twilight zone tonight as today, as far as I'm concerned, anyway. So whatever. Looking at this, looking at what you've got going into New York. I mean, let's say we do make changes. Let's say they do make changes tonight, which you expect them to because you're going to be missing a couple guys because you left them in Atlanta. Any other changes that you would be thinking you would see for that New York game that you would make if you were the manager after this?
No, assuming no injuries or red cards, I think you'll see the strongest possible team for Red Bulls because you're back in the East again, and it's another chance to it's a chance to both keep climbing up the table while simultaneously pushing another team down. So I think you'll see the strongest possible team they can put out there with the available personnel on Sunday. The team is, I think originally they were going to charter from Vancouver to New York, and they changed that. They're coming back to Atlanta so they can pick up Parkhurst, pick up Nagby, pick up whomever they need to, get a night's rest in Atlanta, and then head up to New Jersey. So I think it'll be a strong squad.
Yeah, I think if it was a Saturday match, they'd probably go straight from here to New York. But with Sunday, that extra day, you can get, a little more time at home and charter and back overnight. You're not going to miss any extra time in a regen day. You can do a later regen work at the training ground tomorrow if you need to and get back on a semi-normal schedule after a crazy week. All right. Let's get into some predictions. The Jay Bailey 86 poll on Twitter is active. You can make your votes there on if you think Atlanta United will win by 2 goals or more, by a goal, a draw, or Atlanta United loses. Make your picks. This is all sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, our friend Steve Appolinsky, at Steve Appolinsky on Twitter. Also sponsors our tailgate shows, which we will be back for very soon when we get back to Mercedes-Benz. But let's get into predictions. And Jarrett, since you haven't been with us to make a prediction in quite a while, you get to kick it off.
Don't blame me. But yeah,
I'm just saying.
That's fine. I'll go 1-1. I think Atlanta United finds one. I think Vancouver hits them on the counter for one, where they're able to sit back. Atlanta turns it over, and they get beat. Sad to see breakers and shutout streak in, but I think it happens. But I think Atlanta gets a goal, and they get a draw, and they'll take that point on the road late at night on the West Coast, and then try and power through Red Bulls.
Okay, so let me ask you, since Frank said on Monday, not all draws are created equal, essentially, and you can't really say if you're going to feel good about a point until you get through the game that got you the point. Do you feel good about the point if it's 1-1 in your opinion?
My cop-out answer is to say yes and no, but I would say you're going to feel good about this because all things considered, it's the West Coast. You're making changes going into this game, but I think you're going to have chances to score. It's just going to be a matter of, how many of those do you get? But I think you're going to feel good about it by the time it's all said and done.
Okay, so a good point from Jarrett Smith in a 1-1. Yeah. John, what do you think?
I'll go with a good 3 points, and I will go 2-1 Atlanta United. And I think it will be PT, and I think it will be Gressel getting the 2 tonight. I think it will be, but just because, once again, like Jared said, I think that Vancouver gets one on the counter. So I think it'll be 1-1, and then something happens, say, in the 48th minute that makes it 2-1, 1-1 at the break, 2-1 final Atlanta.
Okay. John goes 2-1 win. Doug, what about you?
I think this is an easy win for Atlanta. I know the travel. I know the time. Blah, 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 blah.
Wow.
I think
it's the official term.
I think Atlanta United wins 2-0. Joseph and Dion with goals. Both.
I had Pereira. I had those 2 in my thought pattern too.
I don't think Vancouver. I know they're playing well, but I just don't think they have enough to really trouble Atlanta United in its form. If this were earlier in the season, then I could totally see Atlanta United getting turned over and losing 1-0 in this. But the way they're playing right now, I think it's 2-0 win. And the shutout streak reaches 403 minutes or whatever the math is.
Yeah, a lot. I think the shutout streak continues as well. I think it's a 1-0 Atlanta win. I don't think it is entirely comfortable, but I do think Atlanta controls the match pretty well and limits the chances for Vancouver. They just don't generate a lot, and I do like my matchup if it's Adnan and Escobar. I think Escobar can frustrate him, and then I think Atlanta gets the goal from that side. And if both of you guys, John and Doug, you guys are high on Dion Pereira tonight, that's going to be an opportunity for him. That's going to be a big opportunity on that side if Ali Adnan is the guy who's going to bomb forward for Vancouver and you neutralize him. If it's Pereira, he's going to have chances to either get the goal or create it. I think Pitti gets another one here. I think it's 1-0 Atlanta and a pretty comfortable win that you feel really good about heading into Red Bull Arena on Sunday. Doug,
no PKs for Ali Adnan.
No PKs. No.
I think Pitti would love to have a good game because the Copa America rosters are supposed to come out soon, right?
Yeah,
and
preliminary
sure love to be a part
reports. Of that team. And these are all reports out of Argentina. Nothing has been dropped as of yet. But the preliminary reports of Scaloni's roster are 30-man preliminary squad, and Pitti is not on it.
Okay.
Just at the reporting stage in Argentina right now.
What about Barco?
Not on it. I don't think any of the U20s are on it.
I'm really curious if he has a good U20, if they'll call him up to the national team just for the experience.
Maybe it's a little early.
Yeah, I could see that. But whenever I think about if I were ever a national team guy, I'd always save 1 or 2 roster spots for the young guys just so they could see what it's like.
Yeah, no, I like the idea. What do you have coming up at the AJC, Doug?
Well, I'm in Vancouver. I'm going to have some Indian food for lunch again, since I had some for dinner with these 2 jabronis that I met up with last night. I think one of them pulled a fire alarm this morning.
Wasn't me.
And then I'll write you notice I said 2, and only one of you was on the line. And then I'll post all the stuff I typically post at Atlanta United starting 11 when it comes out. The game story as soon as the buzzer ends to try to get it to some people before they go to sleep. And then when they wake up in the morning, they'll have player ratings, a podcast, and a couple of sidebars depending upon what has happened late here in beautiful Canada.
British Columbia.
And Jason, I hope you got my message about the media gate, because if you don't know where it is, you will not find it.
Yeah, we're waiting to see how we're getting over there, if we're going in with the team, which would make it a lot easier, or if we're going over a little earlier than that. So thank you. That will be very, very helpful. Mike and I would like to get in, just to be able to do what we do. It's good to get in the building.
Yes, it would be helpful.
Yeah, a little bit. Thanks, Doug. And thanks, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate it. Thanks for everybody finding us in different time slots this week. Tomorrow will be a show kind of like Mondays, where it'll be pieces of things put together, and that's going to come out, between 1 and 2 o'clock, John? Is that a fair estimate?
Yeah, somewhere early afternoon. It'll be another lunchtime drop, recapping Five Stripes After Dark before you and I head to Central Georgia for the next couple days.
Yes, so we'll hopefully have some thoughts about the game from myself, from Mike, from Felipe, if John can catch up with him, from Jarrett, and whatever else we can get, along with some highlights and maybe a little post-match audio. So be on the lookout for that tomorrow early in the day, and we'll be back in a normal time slot, East Coast time, on Friday to get you ready for Atlanta and Red Bulls. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata.
Mucha plata, y'all.